The wine hit Grace Miller before she could move. It came in a single, deliberate motion, the woman in the red dress reaching across the table, lifting the glass, and tilting it slowly over Grace's shoulder as though correcting something minor. The deep crimson spread across Grace's white blouse immediately, soaking through to her skin. The ballroom went quiet around their table. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The woman set the glass back down and told Grace, in a voice that carried just far enough for the surrounding tables to hear, that this seat had been reserved, that the evening was for families who belonged there, and that she had given Grace enough time to understand that on her own. Grace looked down at her blouse. Then she looked up. She did not stand. She did not raise her voice. She placed both hands flat on the white tablecloth and waited, the way someone waits when they know something the room does not know yet. Before we continue, if you believe that dignity cannot be washed away by anyone who thinks their money makes them more human than the person sitting beside them, please take a second to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who has ever been made to feel like they didn't belong. Tell us where you are watching from today. Every comment, every city, every name reminds us that the people who deserve to be in the room are not always the ones who were handed the invitation. Grace Miller was 23 years old and had worked since she was 14. She had waited tables, stocked shelves, cleaned offices on weekend mornings when the buildings were empty and quiet. She had done every shift her schedule allowed around her classes, and she had done it without complaint because she had made a decision at the age of 16 that no circumstance was going to be louder than her choices. She had grown up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Cincinnati with her mother, who worked double shifts at a laundry facility, and had never once asked Grace to lower her expectations to match their income. Her mother had told her every single morning before school that the world would try to show her where she came from. Grace's job was to show the world where she was going. She had earned a full academic scholarship to Alderton University. Not a partial scholarship, not a grant with conditions, a full merit scholarship for years, tuition, housing, and a research stipend awarded each year to one student in the graduating class who had demonstrated what the university called extraordinary academic achievement against extraordinary personal odds. Grace had told no one, not because she was ashamed, but because she had learned that announcing things before they were finished invited opinions. She did not need. The graduation gala was held the evening before commencement in the university's main ballroom. Round tables with white linen, tall floral arrangements, crystal stemware, the kind of room designed to make certain people feel comfortable and certain people feel watched. Grace had arrived alone. Her mother could not afford the flight from Cincinnati, and Grace had told her it was fine. She would call her from the parking lot after. She found her assigned seat at a table near the center of the room and sat down. The Harmon family arrived minutes later. Victoria Harmon was the kind of woman who entered rooms as though she had designed them. Her husband, Richard, followed behind her with the particular posture of a man who had long ago decided that agreement was easier than opinion. Their son, a graduating senior named Brock, trailed behind them looking at his phone. Victoria looked at the seating arrangement. She looked at Grace. She asked the table coordinator, loudly enough that Grace heard every word, whether there had been some kind of error. The coordinator checked the list and confirmed there had not. Victoria sat. She ordered a glass of red wine. She made two comments about the centerpiece and one about the temperature of the room. Then she told Grace that the university had a way of mixing up its lists sometimes, and that it was nothing personal, but perhaps Grace would be more comfortable at one of the other tables. Grace said she was comfortable where she was. Victoria's expression settled into something harder. She tried once more, asking Grace which family she was with, using a tone that made the question mean something else entirely. Grace said she was with herself. The table went quiet. Richard looked at the tablecloth. Rock looked at his phone. Victoria picked up her wine glass. Nobody stopped her. The wine was cold when it landed. Grace sat completely still for 3 seconds. The blouse was ruined. The evening she had planned to remember was changing into something else. She breathed in once, slowly, and thought about her mother folding other people's clothes at 6 in the morning, so that Grace could sit in a room like this, she did not move from her seat. It was the university president, Dr. James Whitfield, who reached the table first. He had been crossing the room when he saw what happened. He stood beside Grace, asked if she was all right, and then turned to the table with the particular stillness of a man who had spent 40 years learning the difference between what could be ignored and what could not. He introduced himself to Victoria. She smiled and extended her hand. He did not take it. He told her, calmly, that he needed to borrow the young woman beside her for a moment, because they had something to announce and Grace was the reason for it. A staff member arrived with a clean blazer for Grace. She put it on in the hallway outside the ballroom, straightened it in the mirror, and walked back through the doors. Dr. Whitfield stood at the podium. The room settled. He spoke about the scholarship, about what it represented, about the student who had earned it this year, her grades, her research, the 2 jobs she had worked simultaneously, the letter of recommendation from a professor who had called her the most quietly determined student he had taught in 30 years. Then he said her name, Grace. Miller stood up from the table. She had never left. The room applauded. Most of them did not know what they were applauding for exactly, only that something had shifted, and that the young woman in the borrowed blazer with the stained blouse underneath was the reason for it. Victoria Harmon did not applaud, but her husband did. After the ceremony, Grace called her mother from the parking lot. She did not tell her about the wine. She told her about the scholarship announcement, and about the room full of people standing up, and about how the flowers on the table had been white roses, which were her mother's favorite. Her mother cried. Grace let her. Some people spend so much energy trying to determine who belongs in a room that they never stop to consider what the room would lose without them. Grace Miller had belonged in that room since the moment she decided she was going to earn her place in it. The wine could not change that. Nothing could. If this story moved you, please like this video, share it with someone who has ever been told they didn't belong, and subscribe for more stories about the people who show up anyway. Special request, before you leave, please comment the words "she stayed" if you believe that the most powerful thing a person can do in the face of cruelty is refuse to move. We read every comment, and yours matters more than you know.